Hey guys, it's James again, and today we are talking about how I made my first prop gun. So yeah, for working on my most recent short film, when we were storyboarding it, and I was choreographing the action in the storyboard, we decided that we were gonna have a gun, and we didn't have a actual prop gun ourselves. We didn't have any airsoft guns. We didn't have any realistic like toy guns or anything like that. And I do know some people who do have access to that stuff, but I couldn't like ask them for it because it was too short notice. So yeah, lacking any realistic fake guns to use as a prop, I thought back to when I first started getting into filmmaking around about I want to say 3-4 years ago, around about 2019. Anyway, I used to watch this YouTube channel called Create Sci-Fi, and a video came to mind when I was thinking about ways to get around the gun problem. And I remember he turned a Nerf gun into a like Star Wars Star Blaster. He's done it a couple times. Well, not just a couple times. And there's a joke on his channel where he just keeps making them. And the video I actually was thinking about, he made a joke about it. But anyway, I'm getting off track. He turns like an actual like Nerf gun into like a blaster for like his like, I think it was a horror sci-fi thing he was doing. And yeah, I was like, I remembered the basic principles around that. I rewatched the video and I decided that I was going to make my own. So, first things first, we needed an actual base for it. Since I didn't really have any pistol-shaped ones, we needed a pistol. So, yeah, because all the ones I got like more like rifle-type stuff, like, and they're kind of weird anyways. They don't really work as a relatively realistic-looking thing. So, we went looking for a like Nerf gun type thing, even if it's like a water gun or something. I had in mind those like realistic guns, like toy guns that are like orange and blue and like yellow and blue and stuff like that, that they sell in America that look like actual guns, but they're actually just like basically just Nerf guns. Because I remember somebody else making a similar type of video to the Create Sci-Fi guy, where they made like stuff for like cosplays and stuff like that, and that was one of the things he found. He's like, this looks really realistic. It's scary how realistic it looks. I'm just gonna spray paint it and do some weathering. I had that in mind, but I sort of knew that we wouldn't find that. The first place we hit up was Poundland, of all places, because I knew they had a toy section, and I was like, I'll check it out. That actually reminds me of something that another video that I'm making soon about props from Poundland. But yeah, moving on with it. Poundland didn't have anything. And our next place was this toy shop across the street from Poundland, which you should come there first, but it's more expensive there, and Poundland's like cheaper. And we looked around for a bit, found the Nerf section, and I found this. I think it was called like an X Shot, and there's a couple like guns that were shaped like it, and I think this was the cheapest one, and it was a single like thing because the others were like duo pairs and stuff like that. And yeah, it was this. I'll show you a picture of what it looked like before. And yeah, I was thinking, yeah, it's not solely realistic. It doesn't resemble any current firearm in service or like made by any company or anything like that. But in a flash, it could be mistaken for a real sidearm, and it sort of reminds me of the guns from Battlestar Galactica, a little bit of Halo, if you know what I mean. And I was like, if I spruce this up, it's going to work well. We also started looking around for like paints and stuff like that, because we were going on a general like shopping spree for the short film, because we've recently changed everything about it, and we were like, right, we just need to get everything for it, because we had a very different plan for the film. I ended up having to massively change, and a lot of things were very last minute. So that day we were buying a bunch of stuff. So we were buying costumes and makeup. At least I think we bought some makeup, because I know we already had some, but yeah, and just general stuff. And we went into the nearby Wilco's, and yeah, we looked around for a bit, we found this paint section. They didn't have any matte blacks in for paint. Well, they did, but they didn't. They had some stuff like barbecue, like metal and stuff like that, and I wasn't sure how that was going to interact with the plastic. So I left it for the day. I was like, I'll come back later, see if they got anything made for plastic when I come back, because it was pretty like the shelves were pretty cleared. Came back later. That was the only matte they still had. I was like, I'm just gonna risk it. I also bought a gloss, which I ended up not needing. The first thing I did when I actually got the gun, this was before I actually bought the props. Like, it was the day we bought the gun, because we bought the props a couple of days after. I took apart the gun, disassembled it so I could figure out how it worked, because it had this feature where it goes like, it was a cool feature. I only found that out after I took it out of the box, because I was playing with it. That's something about me, I'm a child. Yeah, I took it apart so I figured out how that worked. And I realised that I didn't need the blue bit anymore, like the pullback thing, because I was like, oh, should I just like take it out and bring it back in later, or should I just cut it off? I ended up just taking it out, and I also took out the actual like barrel itself, like the internal barrel, and yeah, screwed it back together. Took off like this little blue bit, and seeing the weird like right angles, which I already sort of figured that would be there anyway after we took it apart. I was like, I've got to do something about that. And seeing that I couldn't, because it was hollow, I couldn't just like sand it down to curve the thumb guard to look like more streamlined. I decided the next best thing would be to use that blue bit, but cut it down. Now I went to my dad, because I was talking to him whenever I was doing this sort of stuff, because partly for a bit of advice, but mostly just simply so I had someone to talk to whilst I was doing this, because I was quite excited about it. And when I'm excited about something, I gotta talk about it to somebody, because otherwise I'll go insane. I was initially going to use the side bit, because it just made sense in my head. I'll use the side because it's on the side. But then my dad pointed out that it would be too structurally feeble, and I agreed with him. So we used the bottom bit. I used the bottom bit instead. And the day I bought the paints, I came back, sawed off the bottom bit, sanded it down, and glued it. And then I couldn't find any clamps to keep it down. The glue I used was Airfix glue, but I was like, I need something to keep this down whilst it's drying, because Airfix glue does take a while sometimes to dry. I couldn't find any clamps, but knowing the clamps that we do have, because I do know we have some in my house, they would have been too big anyway. So I ended up using a spanner. Then I went looking for some putty that we had. We had some decorative putty somewhere, and my dad was like, alright, I'll help you find it. We found it. I was going to buy some initially, but I was like, I probably should ask my dad if we still have some laying around, because I knew we had some. And that was to fill in the holes. Primarily to fill in the hole... hold on, I'm forgetting the light again. Primarily to fix the hole that was here, because there's a hole left by the blue bit that we took out. Well, that I took out. That was the primary goal. Also to fill in the screw holes, but I didn't do a great job at the screw holes. I mean, I didn't do an amazing job at here. Here. There we go. But yeah, the screw holes I didn't do great with either. So yeah, the next day I came along and I was ready to paint. I still added a little bit more putty because I wasn't too happy with it. I sanded it down, and then I came back with some more putty, and I was like, because I wasn't happy with some of the bits and bats. And I had the paints, so I was getting ready to paint. I cleared out my hut, because initially we were going to do it in there, and I was like, looking around it, I was like, this is not big enough to do it, because ventilation. I had a bit of a smooth brain moment when I thought using the hut. But I did find a bird feeder and a stick, which was going to be useful to keeping the gun up. And initially the idea was to hang it from something, but now I was like, oh wait, stick, bird feeder, it'll work. I also sprayed the sliding, like the hammer for the slide. Basically I think it's the hammer. I think you could call it the hammer or the chain, but I don't know what you'd call it. But yeah, the sliding bit I spray painted that separately, same day, same time. But yeah, this is like the day before. Like, this was like the night before we were gonna be actually going off and filming our short film. Yeah, I left it to dry overnight. Came back to it. There's a couple little bits and bats that I'm not too happy with. I was gonna go over it with some modeling paint, some like matte black modeling paint to fill out any areas that I wasn't satisfied with. Turns out I didn't have any. That's the one thing I thought I had, but I didn't. I guess I used it all on modeling stuff as a kid. Well, not as a kid, a couple of years ago, when I was writing to modeling and stuff, which is related to the great sci-fi thing, actually. But yeah, then I went over using this technique called dry brushing, where I get some silver modeling paint, in my case, and I basically just brushed over the gun, basically trying to pick up any small details. I didn't go mega on it. I tried to like concentrate on like little areas, on like sections. I think if I I will be doing this again sometime soon. If I do this again sometime soon, I'll just sort of do a broad strokes across the gun, whole thing, to give it more of a metallic look. So yeah, we used it for the shoot. It was only a couple shots, and it was just a way to basically ramp up the action. But it was a fun experience making this. A little bit of a retrospective thing on the whole project here. The project was hellish. Basically anything that could go wrong in pre-production did go wrong, and we were down. Like, both me and my partner were both very down on this project, and there was a bit where I was just like, am I even good at this? Am I good at filmmaking? Do I want to do filmmaking? I just want to curl up and go to sleep, that sort of stuff. I just don't want to deal with my stuff right now. But I think it was around about when I finished the storyboard, and basically all the paperwork was just done by that point after I finished the storyboard, and we had all the actors finally booked, we had location booked, and we had we had the new script ready to go, because we had to completely change the story. And I looked back at everything, and I started work on this gun, on this fake gun, and I was happy again. Basically, I think it's just that part of it was just organization, but I think I really started realizing that I was finally enjoying filmmaking, because filmmaking is fun, right? It should be fun. It's only even when things are going wrong, it should be fun. But there are times where it's like, oh, this is not fun. But when filmmaking is fun, that's when you're doing it right, in my opinion. And making the gun and then going on to shoot the film was amazing. Like, it was so much fun to do. Both making the props, storyboarding wasn't really fun. I was very tired. I was up to like 3 a.m. storyboarding, because I just did it in all one sitting, because I was like, I gotta get this out of the way. But yeah, like, after all paperwork was done, everything was sorted, and I started picking back up, and it was when I was making this prop when I realised I was enjoying myself again, and I realised why I enjoy filmmaking, and it's because it's an experience in creativity.